Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody around the world. I'm Flynn Tracy. I'm very excited to be here with Adobe Live, and I'm joined by amazing designer and photographer Demas Rusli. How are you, Demas?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for waking up with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
I noticed that you
I
took
haven't
your
been awake
hoodie.
at this hour in a
Yeah,
long time.
I noticed that you took your hoodie off in the pre-show as well, so that's great. Just had the same
Yeah, it's
thought.
getting
It's
hot.
just starting to warm up here. Yep. Hey everyone in the chat. Ben Marriott, hello mate. How are you,
Hey,
Jenny?
hey Ben.
Jenny, great to see you in there. Johanna, thank you for moderating today and helping us out. Christopher, what's up? Festus in the house. This is fantastic. It's great to see you all there. Hope you caught the design challenge, the design off that just happened before. That was awesome. But it's great to have you all here. So Demis, it's been I think we actually kicked off the year with some live streams with you in the studio, IRL, back way
Yep,
back
yep,
when
yep.
we used to be able to hang out. Um,
Yeah.
seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, man. Feels so long ago. It's
Mm,
been pretty crazy though, what's been happening in the world actually.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
How are
just have
you
to
how are you
adjust.
coping? Let's just get that right out. How are you doing? How are you doing being home as a photographer?
um It's been all right, actually. I've been able to focus a lot more on creating things with the content that I already have.
Mm,
Luckily I traveled quite a bit towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year,
right.
so I still have like lots of content that hasn't been put out yet.
Mm,
So yeah, I've just been focusing a lot on just um, you know editing a lot, creating like contests, creating YouTube videos, updating my website, and just like it's been alright actually. I've had a good time.
yeah, that's super. That's super cool. And it's good that you brought up the competition because this is a big part of like what we wanted to talk about. It's kind of worked really well. Like the worlds colliding. We really wanted you to come on Adobe Live, and also there's been this amazing competition that you and I think one of your friends have been. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my friend and I, his name is Terry. He's a photographer based in LA. His Instagram is asterisk, and him and I decided to create a contest. It's called the Stay Home FFA
Right.
contest. And so what we're doing is we've dropped like 35 photos each into a Dropbox folder, and it's just all raw files, and everyone can come in and edit it however they want, and be in running to win some cool prizes,
Mm,
including some like Adobe subscriptions, Samsung phones, DJI drones. It's
wow.
like a lot of cool stuff in there. So it's pretty fun. We've got like almost 3,000 entries so far,
Wow.
and there's some really like cool entries. And it's gonna be, I don't know how we're gonna decide three winners. It's gonna be really hard.
Wow. So they're like all remixing the photos that you've supplied and they're doing it in their own style, or is there like a specific
Yeah,
kind of brief?
no, you can do whatever you want with those photos in the
Cool.
folder. Like some people combine like three photos into one, or
Mm.
like just it gets really hectic and creative. It's really fun to see.
Oh, cool. Actually, have the probably should bring this up actually because I actually have this that page up, and so this is
Hmm.
where people can enter and join in.
Yeah, so all the rules and how to enter and prizes and everything is in there. And
Mm.
if you just type in your email, you get sent all the files to your email.
Right. Cool. And there's Australian winners, US winner as well, and a world winner. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's because like so the Australian winner, the sponsor is Samsung Australia, and they like the winning phone runs on like Australian SIM cards. So
Right.
unfortunately, we can't send it to overseas. That's one of the issues.
Mm.
But then as an American winner, the Adorama can't ship outside of US, so that's
Yeah.
why we've got like a US winner, Australian winner, and a world winner. That's why we had to do that.
Mm.
But if not, we would have done it like just anyone could win. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's just a little bit of a limitation.
Things can get a little bit tricky with competitions and regions and rules and all that stuff as well sometimes. So
Yeah.
Um, so before we get stuck into what we're going to do today as well, if you could just give everyone like what's the short version of what you do, because you're a busy guy. Not only are you a photographer, but you're also a designer who works with an architect firm and all that sort of stuff. So you're a busy guy. So give us the rundown.
So yeah, so I am a photographer and designer, and I work part time. I used to work full time in an architecture firm.
Mm.
My background is in architecture, so I did 5 years of architecture school, bachelor's and masters here in Sydney, Australia. I picked up my first camera maybe about second year of university, and then at the same time of picking up that camera, I started posting on Instagram. And at first, I was just posting photos of whatever I thought was interesting. I posted so much at the beginning, like 3 times a day or something.
Wow.
And like just whatever I thought was interesting, or whatever I thought was cool, I'll just post it. And it was like pretty minimal editing back then. It was just like whatever's out of the camera that I thought was cool.
Yeah.
And then 1 or 2 years in, after posting, I realized that I use Photoshop a lot during my architecture school. So I realized maybe what if I combine my photography and my Photoshop and my architecture like together and see what happens. And then I started posting like more like not like more like digital art, but it's sort of superimposed photos and like in these new worlds that like seem real but also not real. And I think that's how my account on Instagram took off.
Right.
And yeah, and it's been like that for maybe I've been doing it now for like 7 or 8 years now.
Wow.
So it's been a while.
It's been a long time, hey? Time flies pretty fast. Actually got your Instagram page here, so for people that aren't familiar with some of your spectacular work, maybe we could show 1 or 2 pieces before we jump in to kind of start from scratch.
Yeah, so the one of the plane there in the forest, if you can click on that one. If you go right on the actual, yeah, there. So that's the green one there is one of probably my most viral pieces because everyone wants to know where that plane is and if that plane exists or it's real or not. Or yeah, it's just like it's been shared quite a lot on the internet, I guess. But yeah, it's not real. It's a plane in Bali, and I shot it with a drone, and then a forest is in Hawaii, and I kind of meshed it together and blended it into one. And yeah, I just like to cause that intrigue and like make people question things and like, yeah, that's sort of the style of photography that I like to do.
Yeah.
The last maybe 2 years, I've been doing a lot more travel. So like, a lot of my content is travel based as well. So I don't know if you go back to the main screen, like if you just scroll down, there's just a lot of travel content that I've been doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I always try to push that travel, not just like a simple straight photo of the place. I always try to take it one step further. Like for example, the one with that fish island. I don't know if you can see that one.
This one here?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like a temple in Bangkok.
Wow.
And there's a walkway leading to a temple on an island wrapped around with a fish. It's like so surreal. It's so weird, but it's real. So I decided to create like this bendy, warpy, like piece of art, I guess, that leads your eyes towards the island from top. Like the island looks so much cooler from above using a drone. And so I wanted to create like a ground shot, and I combine it with a drone shot, and that's sort of what we're going to be doing in like what I'm going to be talking about, explaining awesome. This sort of photography.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm going to throw you a like. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Maybe one more, and then we'll get stuck in because there's so much great work here.
I've also been, if you keep scrolling, I've been doing a lot more like video work as well, like little animations here and there. There's actually a little collab there with Ben Marriott if you want to click on that one.
Oh yeah, perfect. Ben Marriott in the chat, shout out.
So that's a little collaboration I did with a Sydney digital artist or graphic artist, Ben Marriott. He created the animation on the wall, and it's I took the photo in Barcelona on that really, really cool architecture facade. But yeah, so I've also been doing a little bit. If you go maybe one more down, that like top down of the swimming pool.
Oh, this one here?
Yeah, so if you play the video there, so it's like a little animation of like cars driving past, and there's people swimming in the water as well. It's just like a looping video. So I've been playing around a lot with this kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, you're a busy guy. It's amazing. I'm always impressed by how much stuff you do, like since like between times where we catch up. It's like, wow, how'd you get the time to do that and that and that?
It's just fun, you know. Like I really enjoy it. I enjoy creating things and just like and traveling. Like traveling opens your eyes so much to the world. Like at the moment, it's obviously we can't do that, so we just have to wait until we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like it pushes your creativity like elsewhere and just like. Yeah, makes you think of different things.
Yeah, absolutely. No, certainly. Okay, cool. Yeah, so hey, everyone in chat. Yeah, Tunk, we've actually done quite a lot of live streams with Ben Marriott. You can see one. We actually did it a couple of days ago, and we're definitely going to be doing some more in the future. So there's a lot of Ben Marriott content out there too on this channel. So here's how everything's going to work today. Because of the tyranny of the NBN in Australia, when we really wanted to go into like massive detail for some of these things, we're asking some of the guests to pre-record and pre-do their process, and so that means that we're going to get this really, really crisp output just in case anything does go wrong. So we've got that for us today. So Demas has very kindly already done all the work and then sent it, and he's also going to come through and explain it. So that's what we're going to do today. And I've actually got this to kick off right now. There is a timer in the bottom left-hand corner that I will start at some point. And that'll give us like a countdown to Q&A time, which is where we'll just take like a 10, 15 minute break for you guys to ask your questions to Demas that may not relate to the work. But feel free to ask questions as we go. We'll try and answer them as well at the same time as Demas is explaining what's going on and all that sort of thing. Look at that. Time.
Do you want to just quickly go back to the Instagram page? I just want to show the final result before we start.
Good idea. All right, cool. Let's do this.
So if it's at the very top, and it's the latest post.
Nice one.
So this is the end goal of today, or the first half of today. And so those are the 3 photos I'll be using. Cool. It's the 2 bottom photos I took, and the top photo is by my friend Terry. And if you go back to the start, it's just like I try to combine all 3 and make it into like this warpy world that connects to the highway, the crazy highway in China there.
So is this highway real? Or is this
that's a real. No, that's a real highway in.
It's like a highway that you would make if you were a city planner. Yeah. Let's just chuck all this crazy stuff on top of each other.
I just try to make it a little bit more crazy and make it like go through that loop there.
Yeah. That's
so yeah, so
it's just those 3 photos. Wow.
Yeah, so use those 3 photos to create it.
Fantastic. All right, cool. Let's get stuck into it.
So this is just me firstly just like color grading the photo first. So I'm using this as the base image, the background image. So I wanted to just color grade that very quickly in Lightroom. And I guess in Lightroom you just move sliders left and right until you find the right balance that you want. The Lightroom process usually takes me about maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So I do just a very quick, it doesn't take me too long to do it. But I'm just like experimenting with the colors and like bringing up the highlights and the shadows and just like fixing things to the way that I like them, I guess. I guess it's just like a personal taste as well. And it's very subjective. Like you could edit, there's no right or wrong way of editing in Lightroom. You just have to do it however you like. I always like to push up my blues and like bring out the blues in the image and like change like blues towards like teal colors. And then I guess it's just like trying to bring up the shadows in the highway, and sharpening the image and like that kind of stuff. So nothing too crazy. And then here I'm just gonna open it in Photoshop. So this recording is actually like the actual recording of when I was doing the work. Right. So it's like a lot of experimentation, and I'm just like trial and erroring and playing around. So it's you'll see what I'm thinking, I guess. And it actually took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours, so it's been sped up to fit inside the 45-minute window. So I guess it's a bit better, so you guys don't have to like watch me think for double the amount of time.
We have like a 4-hour live stream. It's cool. Yeah, it's quite interesting kind of to see your process, like because it's not always a linear process, right? Like when you're actually in the tools, it's a little bit different to, hey, here's a tutorial on how to do something. This is like you're actually like seeing the process of trial and error and everything like that. Yeah.
So here I'm just cropping the image and like trying to get the right composition. I usually use that rule of thirds that automatically comes up in Photoshop when you press the crop button. And now here I'm bringing in this other image. I didn't even edit it. I just kind of opened it in Photoshop, and then I copy that bottom part into here. Yeah. And I'm trying to see what fits. So originally I wasn't planning on putting it inside that spiral loop thing. I just want it to be at the bottom, like right at the under it. And then you'll see, I think, I don't know, in a couple of minutes or something, I start playing around and I'm moving it up and like trying to see what if it actually comes out of that hole. It might actually be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I turned the opacity of the top layer down to about 50% so I could see what's happening below it and just see like, will this work? Will that not work? Just like what's going to happen? And then this is like where I'm thinking, hey, it might be cool coming out of the loop.
Yeah, totally. Why was the original photo like that hourglass shape?
Oh, it's because my friend took it as a panorama. So the drone, it can't shoot in portrait. So he takes 3 photos in landscape. And then in Lightroom, it actually combines it into one automatically using like the panorama function.
Good solution.
And so that's how, so like when you're out and about, if you have a drone, if you want to shoot portrait, you can actually take a panorama where it's like 3 photos panning upwards, and there's actually a function already on the drone automatically. So here what's happening right now is I put on a layer mask and I got rid of the sort of green parts of the foreground image. So now I'm just testing out like what will work, what might look really cool, just like imagining the roads just like blending into each other. So just a lot of like cropping and free transforming and distorting while I'm just thinking and playing around.
Nice.
I also like to duplicate the layer just in case like I make a mistake or something, so I can go back and fix it or whatever. Here I'm trying to see what it looks like if the whole back, like the whole top part was filled, like so there's no sky. But I think at the end of this, I realized that it's better with some sky, so I brought it back.
Right. And at the very beginning, you're just thinking mostly about the composition, like you're just looking at the frame and you're trying to figure that part out, or what's going through your head when you're at this very early stage?
Definitely. So I always I try to use the rule of thirds as a guideline. So I place the intersecting point on that bottom third line, which is like that loop. Yeah. So that's sort of what I'm thinking at the moment, and like I'm trying to place a subject in the center usually. I mean, it depends on the image, but like on like a phone or something, like symmetrical things and like things that lead towards the center always like draws people's eyes a lot more. So that's why like I've decided to compose it this way. Here I'm using the free transform, like distort tool. I'm just like going a bit crazy with like the warp tool and like the perspective tool to just like blend it into place.
Yeah.
And then I've already copied the road from below above, so later on I'm going to be warping that into place, like just trying to blend the two together. Here I'm just sort of just like cutting it and like making sure that like the bend looks nice. And then what I'm going to do later is I'm going to mirror it so that the left line and the right line are exactly the same. But I'm not going to mirror the actual road because then it looks too symmetrical. So I'm still going to use the pattern on the right side.
Yeah, we've covered that before. I remember from some previous streams you've talked about like mirroring things. Your eye can really pick up a lot more detail than you might otherwise consider from the outside. Like you got to make
Yeah,
sure that you don't exactly reflect things, or your mind knows that it's a reflection, and it takes away from it feeling real. Is that right?
exactly. So here I've just mirrored it, but all I'm doing is just trying to get this shape, and see, I'm stretching that side just to fill it in.
Mm.
I'm stretching the right side, and then what I'm doing is just getting the shape of the back one, and then so it looks, and then deleting it, the top one, so it looks like it's symmetrical. Um, and then originally I wanted to have a car instead of a person, but then I think at the end a person looked much cooler in front of the scene.
In a lot of your work, maybe all of it, I'm not sure, but you will often put a figure in. So actually, on the aeroplane, it might have been a little bit small in Instagram in the screen for everyone. But there's a little Demas in there, right?
There's a little me in there. So the reason I do that is because, like when I did like architecture school and when I was going through university, every time you do like a render or like a mock-up of a building, like they always tell you to have a person inside. It's just to give a sense of scale to the building, and give a sense of scale to the space, and also gives it like relatability, so like people can picture themselves being in it.
Right.
And that's why I always try to implement that into my photography. I always try to have a person, even though it's really small, just to give the image a sense of scale.
Do you find that it works better with a figure other than something like a car or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. It's just, I mean, a car works too, because people can relate to cars and people know the general size of a car. But I think a person is like more personal, right? Like you can actually place yourself in the image, and imagine yourself being at this crazy location, whether it's real or not real. We don't know. Yeah, so here at the moment, I've copied the road from below, from that crazy highway image, and then just a little strip of it. And then what I'm doing is like warping it. I use the free transform and then warp tool, to just try to combine the two images together.
Yeah, Johanna in chat was saying, would you say that the warp tool is your favorite tool?
I think distort is probably my favorite tool. I use that a lot. So in the free transform tool, if you right click, there's like a bunch of other tools. There's like scale, rotate, skew, perspective, and distort, and warp. I use distort a lot because in my photography, I usually do like a lot of architecture photography, so I always try to keep my lines straight, like when it comes to horizontal and vertical lines and facades and stuff like that. And so the distort tool is really, really good, because I can just drag guidelines from the rulers on the left and the top. See, like how I'm doing right now, I always drag guidelines. And just like line up the photo using the distort tool to make sure that it's like perfectly straight, perfectly horizontal, perfectly vertical. Awesome. There's a question from Chris. Do you purposely create your own limitations by only choosing 3 images to work with, or is that all the idea needed for this particular piece? I already had like an imagination, like a thing in mind for this, and so I knew that either 2 images or 3 images would work. Like if I needed more, like if let's say the sky needed something cooler, or I needed to add some birds or something, like then I would add in a lot more. But in this piece specifically, I think I knew that I was only going to use 3 images. But I don't limit myself, but sometimes I do, just to give myself a bit of a challenge. But in this case, I wasn't trying to limit myself to 3 images. It was just like whatever was working at the time.
Yeah, cool. Keep the questions coming, chat, because we've got the ability to answer questions and also talk about the work as we go. So feel free to jump in with that. How do you balance working, because you're working with the architecture firm and also doing all this stuff. How do you how do you figure that extra balance out? Like for a lot of us, it's kind of work-life balance, but you've got like work-life balance.
I don't like. It's funny because like I don't really see like this like Instagram photography stuff as work, as in like it is work because like I do, you know, shoot like commercial campaigns and like I do work with a lot of brands, but I don't really see it as work. I see it as like, you know, something that's fun for me. So like it's something I'm excited to do when I get home from work.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, it's just like a bit of an outlet, and like just seeing like what you can do on the computer is like fun for me. And also out when you're traveling or when you're out shooting, like you always, I just try to, you know, have a bit of fun, and like it's a good outlet for sure.
Nice.
But yeah, like if you were talking about like a regular day, I would, you know, go to work. Normally, I sleep really late, and so I can't. I usually sleep at about like 2 to 3 a.m. That's why it's really hard for me to wake up in the morning.
Right.
And that's why I was saying at the beginning of this live stream that I haven't been awake at this hour for a long time, especially during this like lockdown period.
Right. So you're more of a night owl.
Yeah, definitely more of a night owl. And then, so I usually come into work maybe around 10 or 10:30, which is late, people would say. But I also do stay late back at work, so I usually finish around 6:30, 7 o'clock. And then I would come home, have dinner, hang out with my wife, you know, watch some TV shows, just chill out. And then when she goes to bed at like maybe 11 or 12, then I start to work.
Wow.
Then I start to, you know, edit photography and like prepare my next post for Instagram or do commission work or whatnot. So yeah, that's sort of my normal day, and then I would sleep at 2 or 3 and then do the same thing.
Wow. I like it. I always like being like offset, like, you know, like doing that, because it means that you're not like traveling in peak hour, and you can kind of like, you're a little bit off like everybody else, which I always liked as well. So sometimes I'll either try to start really early or do the same thing as you and start quite late.
Yeah. So now here in this, what's happening in the Photoshop background is that I've blended the colors now. So I use like an adjustment layer. So if you see on the right side in the layers panel, there's like an adjustment layer called brightness contrast 1. So the good thing about an adjustment layer, it's non-destructive, so you can retweak it. So if it's not correct or it's slightly off, you can keep tweaking it. And then I use a layer mask, and I brushed it very, very like softly, so that there's no like hard edge on the blend. At the moment here, I am creating my own yellow like strip of road. So I literally just drew a yellow box, and like a very thin yellow box, and then I pulled it using the like perspective tool. And when you stretch it, it kind of already creates this cool fade, like a blur, like the road sort of old, and it's not like, you know, it's not new or whatever. And then I use the warp tool again to create like this warp effect and the perspective to just get the perspective looking right. And I did something similar to the 2 left and right yellow strips as well. And then you can also add like more of a blur by using Gaussian blur, like the filter at the top. But yeah, so that this is how I create. I just also, to get the yellow tone, I just use the eyedropper and just pick the color, and so I just got the color straight away in like one hit.
Nice one. Yeah, Festus is saying, makes me think about how unbelievably bad my stack would be on a skateboard. Getting a bit of vertigo. Yeah, it would be bad. Martin was asking, how did you learn to use Photoshop? Because they're new to the software.
So I kind of was forced into it. I was thrown into it in architecture school. Everyone had to learn Photoshop. And they didn't provide like a course or anything. Everyone just had to learn it on your own, because if your project or if your assignments if you didn't use Photoshop, like your assignments wouldn't look as good as all the other students.
Right.
So like the way the presentation and like the way you create your images and the way you create your renders and mockups, it just won't look as nice if you don't even use a little bit of Photoshop. And so that's how I learned. Like I picked it up. So I did it like for 5 years at university. By the end of the 5 years, I was like, I could use the program pretty well, I think. And then I always say, like, when it comes to photography, because like architecture, you're starting from scratch. Like usually you just start off with like line work. And so you're just filling in textures with, like, let's say you got a building, right? And you got to fill in a wall with a brick pattern. So you're kind of just filling in these textures, and you got to get the lighting right. You got to get the perspectives right and everything. And so I always say, like, photography is a little bit like cheating, because you already have the image there, and you're just like retweaking an image that's already there. So yeah, like and that's how I think develop my Photoshop skills a lot more, because then like in photography, there's different tools as well that you use rather than in architecture. So yeah, so like layer masks and color adjustment layers, all that kind of stuff is like, it's really handy to know when it comes to like editing photos and editing anything actually on Photoshop. So yeah, so now I've created the two sidelines as well. So now it's like the perspective is really happening.
And there's no guardrails to keep you on the road, Festus.
Yeah.
So
someone commented on my Instagram post like, what if you fall off? It's like, I should probably have done like the rails.
You've freaked someone
have
out.
a little.
They've taken one look at it and then just gone, oh, I saw the craziest road the other day on Instagram.
So this is me thinking, like, should I put the car in or should I not? Like, that's sort of my mindset at the moment. And I was thinking, like, it would be cool to have a car, but the perspective of this is quite off, because if I was to put the car on the right side, you should see like a little bit of the side of the car. Do you know what I mean? So now you see the back of it, and it's sort of it looks very strange and very fake.
Right.
And that's why I didn't go with the car idea. I just went with adding a person in. So yeah, originally I was only going to use 2 images, not 3. And then I came back to my like list of images or folder of images, and saw which sort of person or which figure that I could bring in that would look really nice in here. And the reason why I brought that specific figure is because my friend was wearing a yellow jacket, and it matched the yellow lines of the car, of the road.
Right. There's a question. Question from Startup Santa. I like it. Venkat. That's an awesome name. I love it. Any good materials like video, step-by-steps, blogs, etc. you use to learn Photoshop? They emphasize you, but if you learned like so many years ago, it's probably all changed and updated quite a lot.
A really good two really good resources on YouTube are Flern. His name is Aaron Nace. I met him once 2 years ago at Adobe Max.
Is that PH?
Really nice guy. Yeah, PHLE. Yeah, Flern.
Yeah.
So I used to watch a lot of his tutorials. I learned how to make cinemagraphs from him on YouTube. He's just, and he makes like tutorials entertaining and fun as well, which is good. And then there's another guy on YouTube called Pix Imperfect. His name is Unmesh. Unmesh, yeah.
Yeah.
He is like, knows every single thing about Photoshop, like every single tool, which is crazy.
Oh, Johanna's correcting me. It's Startup Sanatana, not Startup Santa. Hey, it's early for me too. I apologize.
I guess it's like a little bit of a self-plug, but I've also been making a few YouTube tutorials myself. So if you want to come find me on YouTube, come along, come subscribe there. And yeah, I actually plan, like, I've got 2 videos coming out, and then after those 2 videos, my next 2 videos, I'm planning on making like a series of like 10 Photoshop sort of like tips and tricks videos. So like 10 quite short but like really easy to follow things you can do really quickly in Photoshop to just like up your photography. And like, you know, if you use like those 10 skills or tricks, like it should really help you with like learning Photoshop, hopefully.
Cool.
So yeah, this is me bringing in the figure in the image. So I took this photo in New York at a train station. And then all I do is just copy that part. I don't need to bring in the full image. And then I drop him in on the road. And then again, scaling it. I think I use like, bring it down to like 50% again to just see what he would look like in the frame. Oh, actually, no. I just use the select subject function and just like create an outline around him first. And then the background's already gone, and then you don't need to do the 50% thing.
So is this like a photographer thing to just like share your photos with each other in this way, like using each other as like figures and models in the artwork? Is that something that's common?
Yeah, so every time I go traveling and I meet up with like a photographer from that place or location, we always just like put each other in the shot. Like, unless like there's a model or something, I don't really shoot too many models, but like I always just need a figure in it. So I just like ask my wife or ask my friend to just stand in there just to give the scene a little bit of life. But yeah, that's my friend Ryan. He's from Singapore and he was studying in New York at the time, and we just met up when I was in New York. This is me experimenting with like, what if the road was on the left side of the rule of thirds line? So I shifted everything to the left, and like it's because I wanted to see the highway centered. But then I went back to like being everything center, like the road in the middle center. So that's sort of why I shifted it to the left there just then.
Right.
I think also like the next part here is quite useful because I'm adding in a shadow underneath him to make it look a lot more real. And adding a shadow is actually not hard. Like, it's like you just painting like a black blob underneath him.
Right.
And with a really soft brush, you just like paint like a black blob, change the opacity to like 50%, and then like adjust the height of it so it looks sort of real. And then you add a Gaussian blur, and then it kind of just blends like this sort of black blob underneath him, and it just grounds him to the ground, which is nice.
And are you putting like imperfections into the road there so it looks less symmetrical, or what are you doing there?
I think I'm about to fill it in full yellow at the moment.
Right.
Because there were it wasn't connecting properly. Like, because see how there's like a road coming in from the side?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that gave like a massive break on the yellow line. And so that's why I started to draw my own yellow line here. And then I think I get rid of those people that's like under the road at the moment. There's two little people.
So hey, JB's in the chat. Nice to see you there, JB. Good morning. Gaussian blur is the best blur.
It is, probably. For sure.
I'm pretty sure that I went through my entire design education only knowing about Gaussian blur. I thought that was just the only blur that was there. It's the only one I ever used.
I use like ever since photography, I've been using a lot of motion blur.
Right.
So like just to emphasize more motion in my images, and I've also been using a lot of radial blur to like, if it's a image that's like a lot of leading lines towards the center, radial blur is really good because it like adds motion to the center, so it draws your eye in a lot more.
Nice one. We've got about 17 minutes, and we'll get into some questions, and we've got a couple of other things to show you, some things to kind of shout out as well. But the stay-at-home FFA, is this one part of this, or is it the next one that we're going to do? This one is, yeah.
No, this is it.
Yeah, cool.
So these 3 images that I've used for this edit are in the folder. So like, if you wanted to create it yourself or follow along and create this exact thing, you can.
Yeah.
I've just been pretty blown away by some of the entries in the contest. Like, people have been getting so creative with it. Like, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty good to see.
Where are most of the entries coming from? Are they here in Australia, or are they in the US?
I think a lot of them are like just outside. Like, that's why I kind of feel a little bit bad, because it's just like 2 specific countries, and then there's like all the other countries have to fight it out for this one last prize, the world prize.
Yeah.
And because a lot of the entries are coming from like lots of different countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that's good for shadows right here is like, if you bring another layer of shadow on top, like, so it's like making the shoes a bit darker. So right now the shoes are obviously a bit too bright. So now I've added like these 2 blobs right underneath the feet.
Right.
So now it's still looking too dark. So I just changed the opacity, like bring it back down a lot more. So it kind of blends it in a lot more with the ground.
Right. That's cool. Is that because there would be, if there's a shadow underneath, then his whole body would also be putting a bit of a shadow on the top of his shoe?
On himself. Yeah. And also like, a shadow is usually more dense closer to the subject, and then it kind of disperses out. So if you create like a really low opacity, bigger blob, and then copy that and then make it smaller, it kind of already has that sort of effect of like dispersing out. So because you're just stacking 2 black blobs on top of each other, and one's slightly smaller. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Jeff Chen in the house. Hey, Jeff. How you doing, mates? Good to see you.
What up, Jeff?
He's got a question. How's it been for photographers in the current situation? It must be hard to get new photos these days.
It really is. Especially like if you're like if your thing is travel photography, or if your thing is like landscape or architecture or urban photography, it actually has been tough. But like, I feel like there's a lot of things we could be doing. Like, updating your website is really important. Just making sure your portfolio is up to date. Creating like YouTube tutorials using old photos you could do. If there's a technique that you want to share with the world or whatnot, you can just like grab an old photo and like teach people that way. Or even just re-editing some of your old photos, like, and see what you can do now. Like, it's like, there's lots of different things you could be doing, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Are you planning on like learning any new skills? That seems to be like a big thing that a lot of people are doing, like either design related or otherwise.
Yeah, well, I think skills wise, probably making videos.
Yeah.
Like YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff. So that's sort of what I've been focusing a lot on. Here, this is pretty funny actually. I drew like these 2 black blobs because the actual road was sort of darker in the middle. So I wanted to match it. So now it looks a lot more blended in after that. Speaking of videos, a friend and I run a podcast channel called 5 to 9 Podcast. And we are actually launching this pretty cool video tonight at 9 p.m. Australian time, so in about 11 hours from now. And it's called 4 Photographers, 1 Location, and it's like we shot it last year during our road trip around the US with 2 other photographers, so 4 of us in total. And yeah, it's just really fun because we went to sort of like an Insta famous spot, and like we didn't want to take like the classic angle that everyone usually takes, so we challenged ourselves to create 4 different things, and like each of us are all quite different and unique in terms of our style, so we all made something different, and it's like, it was really fun to do and fun to create, and I think the final like video is really fun to watch as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I spent a little bit more time with you about that. There are these like famous spots. Like if you go to Sydney, there's like hotspots for and angles that photographers will share with each other and say, hey, if you're going to shoot this spot, here's the best time of day to be there. Here's the best
Yeah,
spot. Here's some
yeah,
examples, and so they can get quite crowded because any photographer that has access to that information in the community goes along and wants to get that shot at the same time. So you can end up with like all these photographers around. It's quite an interesting
yeah.
community phenomenon.
Exactly. Like because of like social media, because of Instagram, like so many spots are just so famous now that like you don't expect. I don't know if you remember the last live stream I did of like that
Mm.
look up in Singapore, how there was a line, like there was like crazy line to shoot there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking
Yeah,
about. Yeah.
like spots like that, like it just gets so crazy now. So like the spot we went to was sort of out in the middle of nowhere. Like it's like it's called Movie Road. I think it's been in a couple of movies. It's in Alabama Hills in Lone Pine, California. Um, and yeah, it was just like it was literally a single road, and it's got like a really epic mountain view in the end,
Mm.
at the end in the background. So like all four of us tried to create something different, and we talked through the whole process of like our idea, and then we at the end of it we go through and show you guys how we edit the idea and bring it to life. And then yeah, I guess we're gonna get everyone to vote on which one's their favorite and just have a bit of fun with it.
Mm. That's cool. We're 10 minutes away from like a bit of a chat, and we're going to show you a couple of things, share a couple of useful, other useful links, like some of the YouTube stuff you've been working on as well. And that's also a great time for questions. So if you have some questions about photography, about shooting, you can ask away. That's what we've got a little bit of time for that. And then we've got a whole nother edit to show you as well. Completely different edit.
Mm.
How long would you normally spend? I know you said this was originally probably about 2 hours of a workflow. Is that your average amount of time that you would spend?
Um, lately because of lockdown, yes, because I've been having more time to edit.
Right.
And to like push, like get super creative and like blend lots of photos together and do lots of different things. But if I'm tight on time and I just want to edit a photo and like just bring it to life in Lightroom or something, it could be as quick as like 15-20 minutes. It just really depends on the complexity of the edit. But yeah, usually I would usually maybe spend about an hour, maybe on average,
Yeah. That's pretty
on a
quick.
photo. Yeah.
And you've obviously gotten faster over time with that. Like,
Yes, for
took you
sure.
quite
And
a long
I look
time
I look really fast in this because it's sped up 2 times.
Right. um, Sergio was asking if it's possible to get your brushes. Are you using any special brushes in here?
No,
or are you
I'm not using
just
any
the
special
standard?
brushes.
Yeah.
Just the
So,
standard. I only basically just use one, like the soft brush, and just push the hardness down to 0. And that's all I do pretty much. I think like more like the illustrators like Jeff, he probably uses a lot more different brushes than me.
I think actually when we had him on, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you just use mostly the standard
The
brushes.
standard ones?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think so. He's got a couple of different ones. It's like a hard right with a soft left, and he flips it around quite a lot. If I remember,
Yeah,
I hope
I saw that. Yeah, yeah.
that correctly. But yeah, like but it is quite interesting. Like a lot of people will have these huge packs of brushes that they've gotten. I think actually Jeff was saying he does have a lot of unique brushes, but he doesn't use too many. But he's just acquired them over time. We're asking him, hey, where did you get those brushes? I don't know. I don't remember. I've been doing this for so long. They're just there. I found them somewhere. But
So
there's so many brushes. Sorry, you jump in. Yep.
so when you click save in Photoshop, once you're done, it just jumps straight back to Lightroom, which is really nice. So it creates like a new TIFF file. And so this is back in Lightroom, and I'm like recolor grading it with the new image. And I found that like it felt like, even though it's like quite dynamic and a bit flat, I found that adding like a little gradient filter from the top and adding like more light from the top gave it a little bit more like spark to the image and more like oomph. So that's why you'll see after this that like I drag down a gradient filter and like make the top part super bright and sort of a little bit hazy and foggy. using like the dehaze tool.
And this is mostly trial and error when you're in Lightroom, kind of playing with them,
Yeah, so
seeing
just
how
sliding the
extreme.
sliders left and right. Yeah, I'm just sliding the sliders left and right, and then just like, do I like it? Do I not? Do I like it? Do I not? Just like, that's sort of what I'm doing.
And is this pretty common, like, because at the beginning you were doing some Lightroom work with the main image, so that like the background original image first, and then we've kind of gone into Photoshop to kind of finalize the image composition and everything and do all the editing, and then going into Lightroom. Is that a typical process, like Lightroom, Photoshop, and then Lightroom as your workflow?
I do that for pretty much every photo.
Yeah.
Because once you Photoshop something and change it in Photoshop, like, and once you work on it for like an hour or 2 hours on it, like your mind changes and you start to think like, it's probably better if this happened, if the color's like this or like that. You could probably change all these colors in Photoshop too, because there's like camera raw in Photoshop. But I find like Lightroom kind of brings everything into one, and like it's like a good organization tool as well.
Yeah.
So I just do everything in Lightroom. Yeah, it's a. I don't know if lots of people do it, but I always go Lightroom and then Photoshop and then back to Lightroom. That's sort of my usual process.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Oh, we've almost timed this perfectly. We've got like 5.5 minutes or so, like on the actual edit, and that time is like 5:15. So. And where's the typical output for you? It's usually Instagram, right?
Yeah. So after I finish all this, I export it to a Dropbox folder, and then it connects straight away to my Dropbox, and it connects straight away to my phone, and then I usually post it on Instagram, or my website, or sometimes like I make a YouTube tutorial for the image as well. So it's sort of Instagram or YouTube right now.
It's always interesting to hear like people's workflows of how they deal with like getting things to mobile. Like I use it as a Dropbox method as well.
Yeah.
I wish you could just post straight away from the computer one day, maybe Instagram if you're listening.
Someone's asking, have you set up your own presets over time? I do. I have a preset pack that's on sale on my website, but usually when I'm editing a photo, I usually just start from scratch. Like I do have like a set preset pack that what I'm selling is what I usually do, but to certain images, like a night photo or like a nature photo, it's sort of like the standards what I usually do. But each photo is different, so like I always just start off like doing my own stuff.
Right.
Like I just like it's like 5 minutes in Lightroom. It's like pretty quick. So I don't. I mean, I could save myself 5 minutes, but like I always find when I click a preset, I always like second guess myself, and I was like, oh, do I really want this, or like do I not? Whereas if I'm starting from scratch, I know exactly what's happening in the photo. And that's sort of why I don't really use my presets too much. But like I do plan on making more presets in the future. But yeah, personally, I like when I'm editing my own photos, I don't use too many presets.
Yeah.
Here I'm going back to Photoshop because I noticed that like there's this like extra sort of white touch to the road that could make it look nicer in the bend. So I added like this little sort of white parts to it. And then what you do is you just copy the settings that you've already done in Lightroom. Just click copy and then like make sure all the boxes are checked. And then once you hit save again in Photoshop, it resets it, and then you just click paste, and then the edit comes back.
Nice.
So yeah, I save it again, and then I paste it back in Lightroom. Yeah, so this is where I bring in like the more light part at the top.
It's quite an important final step. It's changed the image quite a lot, like just in that last like minute or two.
Yeah, definitely. Just adding like that little bit of haze at the top, I think it brings like a little bit more depth into the image and like makes it more like mysterious and like eerie, I guess. Like, why is this play like that? Like that step right there, like just like adding that brightness at the top. Yeah, you can really see me like thinking like, how much do I want of this
Right.
dehaze? But yeah, radial filters and like graduated filters are really good when you're editing, because then you could like edit just selective parts of it. So instead of editing the full image, right now I'm just editing the top part of the image because of this graduated filter. You can also, yeah, a radial filter is like you just draw a little oval around something and then you can just tweak that part of it, which is nice. Like you don't want to, sometimes you don't want to edit the full thing. And I guess like something like this, like I've done a couple of times before, so like I sort of know the steps to get there.
Right.
But like when I first tried it, like it took me so long to just get it right. So like, it's just take your time with it and just experiment and just play with it. Like don't put too much pressure on yourself. You know, just like have fun with it.
Do you ever need to kind of get up and go for a walk and then come back and have a look back at it?
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes like I sleep on it and then I keep working on it the next day. Sometimes like I work on it for too much that like, you know, you start thinking, you know, is this really bad? Like what? I'm like, is the lighting off on this person? Like you just like, you can't see it anymore.
Right.
So you just have to take a break sometimes and just like, you know, go for a walk or even just like sleep on it for one night or 2 nights or whatever, and then come back to it. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, that's actually really nice. Or sometimes like, oh, that's really bad, and then I go and fix it. Like, yeah, you start thinking and you start like questioning things when you're not working on it. Like just like, oh, maybe what if I add this? What if I add that? Like you start like giving yourself new ideas, which is nice to have a break.
Yeah, totally. Do you ever do a couple of different versions of an edit when you can't decide between one and the other?
Yeah, I do. You can, in Lightroom, you can create a virtual copy. So once you've done with one edit, you can create a virtual copy and try a different edit. And so sometimes I do that. And if I can't decide, sometimes I post like a carousel of like 2 different edits and like ask my audience which one's better. Like it's just like, you can get creative with it and just like make it interactive or something, you know?
Totally. Well, it looks amazing.
Thank you. So this is the final piece.
That's super awesome. And so we've made it to Q&A time as well. So there's a couple of questions, but we've been pretty good at answering those questions as we've gone. So I might start off. So chat, feel free to ask your questions now. We'll do Q&A for like 10 minutes, take a bit of a break. And meanwhile, I'm just going to show a couple of those things that we were chatting about. If I can figure out how the internet works. Cool. So this is, if you are just joining us, this is Demas's Instagram page. So DMAS. Check that out. If you're not following it already, this work and a lot of all of his other works are all up here. And we were chatting about your YouTube channel as well and how there's a lot more kind of coming up here. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about the sort of stuff that's on here and the stuff that's coming. So
I kind of only kicked off my YouTube channel. See where it's like Q&A? See that Q&A video?
Yep.
Second, yeah. So that's sort of where I sort of kicked off my YouTube channel properly, I think. Like before that, I was doing like speed edits where it's literally just a screenshot of like, and then I speed it up to like 5 minutes. So it's very hard to follow, which I apologize for. I didn't realize, and I should have like explained better and like done like a voiceover or something. But I think I was just too afraid to just like talk on camera or like just show myself. But like I just like, you just have to do it and like just do it.
Yeah.
And so starting from that Q&A video is like some videos I've been making within the last 6 months, I guess, or 9 months, it says. And then I've recently because of lockdown, I've been starting to make a lot more. So I've got like lots of videos coming up in like the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And so I've got like a panning photography one. I think some useful ones obviously is like removing people from photos and like how to loop videos. And we're going to be talking about that time slice one as well very soon in this live stream.
Cool.
But like, yeah, so I'm just trying to make like videos that are useful for people. Obviously, like that's like just my goal. Just try to teach people how to edit something or how to shoot something. The 5 mobile photography tips and tricks one is quite nice because like it just takes you through like how to shoot on mobile, like just on like the device you have in your pocket. So yeah, it's been fun though. It's a very big learning curve, and like just trying to grow a YouTube channel and like trying to teach. I guess I like to do it. So
yeah, and you do a lot of that on your Instagram as well, like in stories, like step by step, like how to follow a lot of your edits and stuff like that. And that was actually one of my questions. Like, where does that come from? Like wanting to kind of give back and share a lot of your process and put it out there.
I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be where I am today without Instagram, right? So like, and how I grew on Instagram was the people that started following me. So like, obviously, I have to give back to them. And like I have to teach them, and like a lot of people requested as well. So it's like, how do you do this? So like, might as well just show them, right? Yeah. I used to actually, back in the day when I was like in university and in high school, I used to tutor a lot of mathematics. So I like teaching, and I like seeing people grow and like do stuff and like create things after you've taught them something or get inspired from you or whatnot. You know, like it's a really good feeling. And so I guess a regret I have is like starting this YouTube thing a little bit too late. Like I should have started maybe 2 or 3 years ago, right? You know, but you know, it's better late than never.
That's right.
So I just kicked it off maybe 6 to 9 months ago, and I've slightly been more active the last few months. Hopefully more active in the next few weeks. And yeah, like it's been very interesting. And then also starting a podcast was also very interesting because we didn't realize how much work it is.
Yeah, I could have told you that. Why don't you ask me? Let's bring that up. That actually works out really well. So this is the 5 to 9 podcast with Ichiban as well.
Yes. There should be a premiere video somewhere. I don't know. If you go videos or something.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully there's. Oh yeah, there we go. 4 photographers, 1 location.
Yeah, I had this already up, I think, as well. Is this the one?
Yeah, so that's going live in about 11 hours exactly.
Nice.
And we'll be chatting in that chat when it's live for 20 minutes. And like if you guys are watching, if you have any questions, you can comment on it or chat with us, and we'll be talking there.
Oh, so we've got you up early. So we've got you up early for a live stream, and then you're doing like a premiere at the end of the day in the night.
It's actually pretty funny. I'm doing a podcast tonight with an Instagram page called Urban Romantics.
Okay.
And they're based in New York, and they asked me what time I wanted to do it, and then I said because I sleep real late, and they're like, and the time difference makes it fine for them because it's in the morning for them.
Yeah.
And so I said, let's just do it at 1 a.m. So I'm doing a podcast tonight at 1 a.m.
Wow.
But it's all right. I'll get it done.
We'll get it done. I'm glad that we get fresh Demas. We get you first. That's great. There's a question from Christopher asking, what's your favorite image you've created? Do you have a favorite?
I would say if you go back to my Instagram, like that plain image is probably one of my favorite images that I've created. But another one, it's not an image, but if you just scroll down, there's like a video of the Bangkok. It's a market outside of Bangkok. If you just keep scrolling down. No, keep going. Keep going. Yeah. So that one next to the bar, top-down photo. Yeah, that one right there. That went like insanely viral. But it was so fun to shoot. Like just looking at this from above was like so crazy, right? Like seeing how they just like open their awnings and then a train goes through and then they just close their awnings and just go back to work. Like it's just like...
Is it just like business as usual for them? Like is this a common thing? Must be.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like a market. Like it's like a market that the locals go to, but now it's just it's so touristy. Like everyone goes to it.
Right.
So if you unclick that, and then if you go down, next to there's actually the ground shot of it. So if you next to the taxi image,
This one here.
yeah, so that one, yeah. So that's what it looks like on the ground.
Wow.
Like a train coming right through you, and there's like fruits and stuff. So if you click on the carousel, you can see like the train passes over like all the food. It's just such an insane place. I would say this is probably like one of my favorite places to just experience, like, and just see. Like it's just so crazy. Like people sticking out their heads because they want to experience it. It's just like such a funny thing. Like this lady's like, she's like pushing it because it's going away from her. And that guy on the left is holding a pole, so all the awnings are like held up by these poles.
Right.
It was just so insane. Like it's just such a hectic thing. Yeah, the train comes about once every hour, so you just like waited for it. So we waited for 2 trains.
So close.
Yeah,
This is as close as
and
possible.
you can see how the tables are on wheels. They've like made this concoction where they just like pull the tables back, and it's like so easy for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very insane place. And then that's a photo of me taking that first photo. Like my wife took that photo of me shooting it, like leaning forward. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting place. I would highly recommend people checking it out if you go to Bangkok.
Nice. There was a question, any suggestions on vlog, like video blogging gadgets or toolkit? Actually, that's a long answer. There's a lot of different setups.
So I only started vlogging and making videos very recently. Hold on. But I can show you. So this is what I use.
Nice.
So it's a Sony camera, but you can use any camera, right? But like I think the most important thing is this mic.
Yeah.
Because you want good audio quality.
Always.
A good sort of wide-ish angle lens is nice. So maybe about 16 to 24-ish mils. So you can like hold it and like do this and like talk to camera, and you don't like too close to the frame.
Right.
So yeah, and if you really want, you can like, there's a thing called a switch pod where you attach, it's like a tripod, but like you just holding onto it. It's like, it's nicer to hold on to, or like a gorilla pod or something. So that's sort of nice for vlogging. But I'm really new to all this as well. So I just use the camera that I have and bought a mic, and then that's all I've been using.
Totally. Yeah, and I think Festus was in here sharing it already, but there's a great series by Paul Tranny at the moment for people that are looking to get into streaming or vlogging or anything like that. That's all over Behance. So I think there's a link if you scroll up a little bit, so you can check that out if you want those details. And there's a lot of resources out there for that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a big world, and you can go deep, and you can spend a lot of money. My suggestion is to try to use what you have and not spend too much money, just in case you don't.
Even your phone, you can start vlogging on your phone. I've got somewhere, I don't know where it is, but I've got like a mini microphone as well that like you can plug into your phone.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper, obviously, because it's like a very small microphone, and you can just like start vlogging on your phone like this, you know, like it's. You can just use whatever you have, and like if you really enjoy it, if you really get into it, if you start building an audience, then you can invest in more things later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always good to start not too crazy expensive, because you might find that you don't enjoy it, or it's too time consuming for what you want to do, or not the right medium or something like that. So
yeah, same with like photography gear, right? Like cameras and stuff. Like people always ask like, what's the best camera to get? But it's always like, you should like work towards a really good camera. So if you start off with like your phone or something, and then you find that your phone is a bit limiting, then you can get a little camera first, and then you can, start like learning manual functions like ISO, shutter speed, all that kind of stuff. ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. Like if you know all those three and learn all those basics, then you can use any camera. Like it doesn't even matter. Like, and then you start looking into, like, if you get really deep into it and like 4 or 5 years down the line, then you can look into getting something more expensive because you saved up for it.
Yeah, it's good advice. Thanks for the questions, guys.
And also like,
oh no, you go.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're right.
Also like, it's always like, if you're looking to get gear, you always want to think about like, are you able to pay that back using the, like, if you're getting a photography job or whatever, like, are you able to pay that back using the gear that you've bought? So that's sort of something you should consider as well.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I often do try to think about that when I'm buying new equipment. I'm like, how often am I going to use this, and will it over time like kind of pay for itself, like kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, we might jump into the second one. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
So the second one is about how to step up your time lapses. So maybe we could pause this quickly and just go back to the Instagram page again, just to show what we're going to do. Because if you're looking at this Lightroom thing, it gets a bit confusing.
Cool.
So if you go up,
it's pretty early on, wasn't it?
Oh no, you passed it. So if you go down, so there next to the fish island.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you click on that and then you play the video, it's called a time slice, where it's like you use a day to night time lapse to create this sort of animation looking thing, and it's very like sort of lo-fi, but also very like hi-fi as well. Yeah, I find it fun to do, fun to make. So it's like a creative way to like level up your time lapses if you're shooting time lapses.
Yeah.
So I guess to shoot a day to night time lapse, I guess we should go from the beginning. You should use a tripod first. That's very important because you don't want time lapse to move. And then day to night time lapse, I usually put it on aperture priority and lock your ISO to a certain level. So I do about maybe ISO 400 or ISO 800 max usually, because then all that is changing is going to be your shutter speed. As it gets darker, your shutter speed will get longer and longer and longer. So this is, I think, a total of, I don't know, 700 images that I shot in Chicago. And so I just brought in all the raw files into Lightroom. I just chucked it into a folder and then, again, brought it into Lightroom. And then I color grade just like a very basic, do a very, very basic color grade here in Lightroom, because the colors will change tonight. So you don't want to make a change that affects the day shot that's going to ruin the night shot, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing a very basic thing when straightening the lines using the geometry tool. And then I just literally just maybe bring up the shadows, or like just only do the basic edits here at the top. And then I think I crop it here, or maybe I crop it later, but in Premiere. But yeah, I'm just straightening all the lines and just getting everything right. And then we're going to color grade it later in Adobe Premiere using Lumetri color. And you can keyframe the color grading so that like it changes as the photo changes. So yeah, this is where I start doing like the very basic minor edits. So I'm not going to tweak any colors, I don't think. I'm just doing like the little bit of temperature, a little bit just the top panels, like just the lighting, and then the...
Yeah, cool. And is this Chicago? I think you mentioned.
Yeah. It's in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I shot this October last year during just a holiday I had with my wife. Ben said he slept at 4:30 a.m. because he was finishing off the video. He was finishing the 4 photographers 1 location video.
Well, thanks for coming up and catching the second half of this. Ben and Tim in the chat. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, the boys, they're both in the video, so it's good that they're here.
They just showed up when they were in the video, right? They're like, oh, cool, now it's time to jump in. Great to have you here. ISO Life, yeah.
So yeah, Ben and I are going to go live on Instagram just before the video launches, just to chat through it and just to like interact with, just people who wants to watch. So just come watch us if you guys feel like it tonight at about 1 hour before the video goes live.
Nice. Have you done that sort of
So
thing
yeah,
before?
lots of
like
things happening today.
a premiere and then being in chat on YouTube? Is this a new thing, or is it something you've done before?
I've done Premiere once before. I didn't even know what it was. I just tried it out, and it was good. It was fun. Just chat to people while like the video's playing, and then they can like comment on it. It was good fun. But yeah, I thought this one was a good. Like we thought this one would be a good thing to premiere because it's like the first one of a series of hopefully we do more in the future. And then it's like a 20-minute long video, so it's like a good amount of time to chat to people as well. So now what I've done now is copy all the edits copy the edits and paste it to every single photo. Maybe you can just scrub through this. I didn't realize it was going to take this long.
Sure.
So see at the top, the bar? Yeah. So now it's all pasted.
All right.
And then what I do is I just export everything into a folder as well. People are bugging me on Facebook. Look, on the
on Facebook.
No, there was these like pop-up notifications that kept coming up on the screen recording.
Oh right. Oh, when you were originally making this.
Yeah. So I'm selecting everything right now, and then I'm exporting it. And just like when you export, you want to put it in no, you don't need to click subfolder. You can just choose its own folder so that like it's really easy to find. And then what you want to do also is like name the see all these people?
Right.
That's me turning off my Wi-Fi so that no more Facebook.
Do you have to do that very often? Like, because you have quite a big following, like on Instagram and everything like that. Do you often find that you have to turn off notifications, or I imagine it would get fairly overwhelming?
Yeah. So here I'm creating that folder, Chicago Time-lapse JPEGs, select folder, and then the next step is to just like rename it. Yeah, so you want to rename it to whatever, and make sure the start number sequence is 1, so that like when you export everything, it's like numbered, and when you bring it into Premiere, it becomes like super. It's just one click, and it just brings it into one big time-lapse file. So you want to export that. So it'll take a long time to export. Like it may be like 700 photos will take about 2 hours. Oh no, is it 500 something photos? Yeah, it took me about like 2 hours to export that. If you want to skip past this too,
okay,
it might be.
I bet you wish
because
you
it's
could
literally just exporting all the photos. Yeah.
Oh, I see. We're actually like up top left. We're making the Lightroom go.
Yeah. So now I'm in Premiere and I'm making a new folder, a new file.
How many images was it?
I think it's about 550 or something.
Wow. It's a lot.
So I'm going to import that. I'm going to find the folder. And then, yep. And then once you click the first one, make sure that image sequence at the bottom is clicked. And then just click open. And then it should turn it into a time-lapse video for you straight away. So yeah, so you just drag it in. And then because I'm doing 20 slices, what I'm going to do, I'm going to stretch it to 20 seconds just to make it more simple for myself. Because we're just going to keep the slices at 1 second intervals at the beginning, and then we can speed it up at the very, very end. Now I'm changing the frame size to 4:5 ratio for Instagram. And then playing around with the composition and the scale and like the positioning of it so it looks right first.
Did you teach yourself Premiere as well?
Yeah, it was a Premiere is actually like not. I find Photoshop probably harder than Premiere. Premiere seems, I guess, more simple. I think the hardest thing about Premiere is like how to piece a video together, like how to create it from a video, or how to, the storytelling aspect of it is probably the hardest part of Premiere.
Right.
Well, it's literally just like dragging and dropping videos onto a big timeline, and then just cutting it. Like it's like just chopping and changing things. It's like, yeah, it's not too bad, Premiere, actually. I think After Effects is probably the hardest, because I haven't touched that yet.
It can be a steep learning curve for sure. We've got some Ben Marriott videos we can send you. He can show you how to use it for sure.
I subscribe to him. He's got lots of good videos. So yeah, I pulled these guidelines as well. So just like in Photoshop, I drag guidelines from the left and right just to help me compose. I've created my own like sort of rule of thirds guidelines like template for Premiere. So all I have to do is just like click on it and then it appears. But literally you just have to do a bit of maths, because if it's like a 1920 height, you just have to divide that by 3 and then just like pull it to the exact number.
There's a question of Christopher. How long did you spend recording the time lapse? Like how long was that original recording?
So I think it was about 2 hours.
About 2 hours.
Yeah. So here's how I'm going to color grade this. So just like in Lightroom, there's this panel on Premiere called Lumetri Color. And so again, you're just dragging sliders left and right to just tweak the different aspects and the tones of the image. So what I'm doing here is color grading the very first frame. And then after I finish color grading the very first frame, I'm going to create a keyframe and then color grade that next frame. But I'm only going to do it, I think, 5 times. So like, because it's a 20-second clip now, I'm doing it every 4 seconds. So I only like need to do it 5 times. Basically like editing 5 photos, right?
Right. And like Lightroom, is this a little bit of trial and error?
Yeah, definitely. It's because it's not a raw photo. It's just like sort of editing like a JPEG. It gives you like the full capabilities when you're editing. Like it doesn't have as much data or information as you would in a raw image. I find this a quicker way to color grade a video, or a time lapse. Sorry, if you really want to use a raw photo if you really want to use raw photos for time lapses and get that really nice color grading, you can use like a Lightroom plugin called Time-lapse. Yeah, so then Wi-Fi keeps doing it. Yeah, so you can use a Lightroom plugin called Time-lapse to do exactly what I'm doing right now in Premiere. So just, like the color grading will change from one point to another point to another point. You just have to select the different points. So here on the left side on the effect controls panel, what I'm doing is I'm clicking all those like stopwatch buttons, and that's creating a keyframe for every single like function that I've changed.
Right.
So yeah, so if you see like a little diamond appears on that little timeline, and so I think next what I do is I type in 4 seconds. So in the time code there, I just type in 400, and then it jumps to the next. Where's my mouse? Where is it? Where am I?
There it is.
Okay, there it is. So I'm gonna. So I type in 400, and it jumps to the next part. And so all I have to do is just tweak the colors again. You can also use a Lumetri color panel on the right side, but I decided to just use these numbers and start dragging them left and right. It's exactly the same thing. And so yeah, so now I'm like color grading the next frame. Yeah, it's just literally like a bunch of trial and error. So then I go again and do it for the 8-second mark, the 12-second mark, the 16-second mark, and then the 20-second mark. So just like it has a nice sort of transition to it. Yeah, so again, like it's like before, like at the Lightroom stage, it's very like subjective. So like if you prefer cooler tones or warmer tones, then you can do it however you want. Like it doesn't, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to color grading. It's like whatever your personal taste is, and just what you like.
You were talking before about kind of you more or less sort of favoring like bringing out the blues in a lot of images. Is that
Yeah,
like a thing that you always do, or is it just kind of case by case?
it's case by case, but like mostly I quite like blue instead of red. Like I prefer cooler tones to my images, but it's just like my personal preference, right? Like lots of people prefer warmer tones, so
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't. Yeah. So yeah, now I'm up to the 8-second mark and just like doing the same thing and just keep color grading 5 different parts of the photo.
Do you have any go-to tips for color grading? From
If your shadows are too dark, like it's like too black, I always try to bring it back up just to give a little bit more detail. So I never like to have like something too black in an image because it's quite distracting. And also you don't want something too white in your image because your eyes get drawn towards it. So you bring your highlights down when that happens. So getting that balance of highlights and shadows is quite important for me. But yeah, like I just try to like when I color grade, I try to portray what I want to see. Like as in like if I was at this location, like it'd be sick if this is if the colors were like this or something. Like I always if there's a sick cool sunset, like what if I push the to be more purple or to bring out more blues or bring out the oranges or whatnot. Like so I always think like imagine if it was like that in real life or whatnot.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it. Like less about it being a photo, and more about like what would I want to have seen? Like what would make this atmosphere or this environment like more compelling or interesting?
Yeah.
So we got about 25 minutes, just letting chat, and we got about 25 minutes left. So good time for questions as we go.
So yeah, I guess like it's just like a little bit of a process, right? Where it's like you just have to color grade it bit by bit. Like it's just like a repetitive thing, so it's not difficult or anything. So it's just like you just have to go through it, and like it makes it. And also, if you don't want to create a time slice, and if you just want a straight day to night time lapse, this is still a good way to color grade your time lapses. So this is like super yellow and orange. So I brought the temperature way down to blue and like pushed up the tint to the purple side, to the magenta side, to like make it less orange and yellow on the image, just because it's personal preference and I just like that more blue and purple vibe. It's a bit harder to do though because, yeah, like I said, it's not a raw file. But yeah, you just have to play around with it, tweak the colors. So the good thing about keyframes is that like when you like between like 16 and 12 seconds, the previous keyframe I did, like the numbers will just gradually change. So it'll like, yeah, so it just like nicely transition, colors will look really nice.
Yeah, there's a question from chat. Any new collaborations in the works? You've got the premiere thing happening. You've got 5 to 9 podcasts. You got your hands full. But yeah, do you have any like collabs in planned?
With like brands or with like other creators?
I guess you could
Or
answer
either.
it either way, I suppose. Yeah.
I've got a post coming up. I'm doing with Samsung. I've been working with Samsung for quite a few years now, where they have challenged me to the brief is like optimism, and so like try to find the positivity in every situation that we're in.
Right.
And given the current situation that we're in, I tried to find like a local spot to shoot at, like literally I can walk to the spot from my house.
Right.
So I found this like overpass thing that like creates like really cool light trail. So I did like this. I created a little night hyperlapse or night time lapse using my phone, and then yeah, it should be coming out very soon on my Instagram feed. And I'm going to be making a YouTube video as well on the whole process of like me walking around my neighborhood and like trying to find this spot and how to edit it and how to create it as well.
Oh, cool. There's also another question on any tips of meeting other creative pals and putting yourself out there to network.
For sure. Like every single city or country has like its own sort of Instagram community or photography community. And there's always pages like IGERS, so IGERS, which stands for like Instagrammers. And then you name the city. So like there's IGERS Sydney or like IGERS Melbourne or whatever, right? And so that's a good way to usually meet people. And that's how I went to my very first Instameet ever.
Right.
And so, yeah, so either that, or if you find someone you like or someone you think, you know, you want to hang out with or whatever, you can just send them a DM or, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, it's like, that's sort of how the world works now. You just like DM people and like meet randoms, right? And that's what I do. Like when I travel as well, like I just DM a friend or someone I've been following for a long time, and like we've been following each other. So like, hey, I'm coming to your city. Let's meet up. Let's shoot together or whatever. And they do the same when they come to Sydney as well.
Yeah. That's cool. You must be, there are times where you feel obligated. It's like, oh, I definitely have to go out for a shoot with this person because when I went over and hung out with them, they took me out for shooting and everything.
Yeah. No, but it's good. Like it builds like friendships, you know, across the border, and like it's fun. That's how I'm able to do like this contest with Terry, because I've met him like 2 or 3 times when I went to LA. And we even bumped into each other in like Hong Kong when we were doing like a shoot together. Like it's fun. Like you just meet lots of creative friends.
I find that of all the industries that kind of get to dabble around in, I find photography is very social. Like and you know, it seems to be very sharing, like very like seems to be not all industries aren't, like creative industries, people are generally pretty good, but photography in particular seems to be very open, very sharing. To kind of no matter what level you're at, it seems to be a very kind of friendly community.
Yeah, for sure. It really is. So here, I think I've almost done color grading the file. I'm not sure if it's in this. I'm not sure if it's in this video or this screen recording, but I think I tried to start doing the time slices using this current file. And then it was like slowing my computer down so much because it's literally like stacking 20 times like time lapses into one file, and it just wouldn't work.
Right.
So like what you have to do is you have to export it out first and create a video file first, and then you bring it in, and then you create the time slices after that.
Oh, interesting. Just on the community thing, there was the Global Night Squad, I think it's called. Maybe you could tell us a bit about that as well, because that's like extremely community driven. Yeah,
so a few years ago when like I was like shooting a lot in Sydney, and before I was traveling a lot, a friend and I started this sort of community called Global Night Squad, because we both always shoot at night together, and we're like, no one really does photo meets at night because it's sort of like counterintuitive, because like photos you want light. So just 1 second. So this is where I start exporting it. So I'm going to export it first, and create a file first, and then I bring in that exported file into the folder, into Premiere, and then I start doing the time lapses.
I can fast forward this. Look at that, so fast, so fast.
You should also create a new sequence so that like it just creates a new timeline when you're starting this process. So yeah, this global night squad thing, we just thought it would be fun to just, announce it on Instagram, like, let's meet up for a night shoot one night. And then it was so funny because the very first one, it was like a rainy Friday night and 90 people rocked up to this, like, in front of the MCA in Sydney.
Right.
And like, we were so shocked. We're like, whoa, what is this? Like, we didn't expect 90 people to just, rock up. So we thought it was such a good thing that we just kept doing it. We ended up doing like 5 or 6 Sydney night squads, Insta meets, and we did like a couple like different ones, like Melbourne night squad, Brisbane night squad. We even did one in Hong Kong. And then, yeah, the Sydney ones got massive. Like, there was one that got up to like 300 people coming, and it was just like super fun. We kind of like stopped it a little bit now because we found it like it could get a bit dangerous for 300 people to just walk around.
Right.
And so like we just didn't want to like risk anyone. It like sometimes the cops started to come because some kids started to like do stupid things, and like it was just like
Yeah.
Anyways, can we just rewind quickly?
Yeah.
So what I'm doing right now, from here.
Cool.
So I bring in the effects panel. You just type in crop, and you just drag it onto the video file. And you just have to do a bit of math. So like if you're doing 20 slices, you have to crop it like 5% at a time. So like 95%, 90%, you know what I mean? Like 85%, 80%, stuff like that. And then you bring in the left and right, you just tweak it. And then you go to the next second, at 1 second mark, you copy that video up, and then you do 90% and then 5%, if you know what I mean.
Right.
You just repeat this process all the way until you get to 20 seconds. So this is what I'm doing right now. And that's how I'm creating these slices, using the crop function.
Yeah, cool.
There's also another like one where I did diagonally, and how I did that was like I just literally rotated the whole frame. Like I literally like when I nest it, when I bring in the new time lapse in, I just rotated it and made the whole frame bigger, and so it's like a massive black frame around like a diagonal image.
Right.
And then I sliced it that way.
Oh, right.
So maybe there's a smarter way to do it, but that's how I did it.
It's always the way. It's always thinking, oh, maybe there's a better way to do this, but this is the way that works. So, did you figure that out, or did you find someone else online?
No, I just figured it out. I was just like experimenting, playing around myself. I also heard that like you can create like an After Effects script or something to automate this. So I guess there's a way in After Effects as well. But yeah, this is how I've been doing it in Premiere, just one sort of layer at a time.
Yeah. Christopher was asking, how'd you get the Samsung gig?
So I've been using Samsung phones. I've never used an iPhone or anything ever. And a few years ago, this agency approached me and said, like, do you want to work on this campaign for the Samsung Galaxy S7? So it was like maybe 4 years ago now, actually. And yeah, and I started from that. I did that campaign, and then I think they really liked what I did, and then I kept working with them every phone afterwards. So it's like it's been really fun. I got to go to the keynote for the launch of the S10 last year in San Francisco, and that was super fun.
That's cool.
Just to be a part of it. But yeah, it's been a pretty good and long-lasting relationship, which I'm happy with.
It's pretty good for you to be able to kind of go over with the brand because of you. I assume that you probably got some photography in, like some travel in, like piggybacked off off
for
that
sure.
trip. Yeah.
And the phone camera itself is really good. So like, I don't have any issues shooting on the phone camera. Like it's like I can do whatever I want to do as well.
And sorry, I
if you
talked
just
over this.
Go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask what's happening.
So once you've So go back a little bit more.
A little bit more.
Yeah, so once you've stacked it all up, all 20 stacks, you just go to the 20-second mark and then select everything. So you can go forward now a little bit.
Yep. I'm hesitant to scrub too far because I might just go like way too far.
Yeah, I think, yeah, here we go. So I select everything and then you do Command or Control K to just split the files, and then you drag whatever's at the back to the front. So now like it's just going to keep looping, if you know what I mean. This one I made a mistake. I didn't select one of them. And then so all I'm going to do is just nest it and create one track from everything. So now what I can do from this is I can speed it up, I can slow it down, I can do lots of different things to it. So now it's one file. If I stop adjusting how big the thing is, so I'm going to drag it and you can see how it's already starting to create that effect.
Yeah.
I also found that like it looks much better if you reverse it. So now I'm rewinding it. So now the effect is going from left to right rather than right to left. So yeah, and all you do now is like, I reckon, see how it's still very slow now? The final piece, which was not part of the screen recording, I actually sped it way up and I just made it keep looping a few times. So now it's like very slow, very like, yeah, when you speed it up, the effect is like so much better. And then I also music as well to just like give it a little bit more vibe and a little bit more like, you know, mood to the whole piece of the video.
Yeah.
Like a good like chill hop beat or like a hip hop beat or something would, well, for me, it's what I like, so that's what I usually put into my videos like this.
Yeah, I was going to say, where do you get your music from? Because it need to be like royalty-free stuff.
Yeah, so I use a sponsored by them anyway or anything. So I think they are turning on my internet. I'm finding the music. So if you just scrub forward, I think I'm just like on the other screen finding a song. Yeah, so you scrub forward. So I found a song, I listen to it, and I make sure it loops. Like all songs have like 4 bars and it loops back again.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I find a point where it loops back, and then I just create this sort of looping transition, and just like it makes a video that's like never ending. So yeah, so that's what I usually do when it comes to music. I just try to find a song on Epidemic Sounds. I pay for the service because I use it for my YouTube videos and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a question from Chris here. Any tips on pricing your work? I think that's a very important question. And I think for pricing, like you should think about like if you would do that job for that price. Like if you, let's say, were given a job to do it for $200, do you think your time is worth that much or that little? Like then that's sort of how you should like assess the situation when you're pricing. But also when it comes to like licensing images, there's also these websites where you can like, there's the Getty Image Calculator website where like you could see if your image is being used for like a specific purpose or something, like, you know, if it's going to be used in a magazine or a billboard or whatever. There's like different pricing available, and they can give you like a guide on like how to price it. So I usually use that to help myself. But yeah, like I think it just comes with experience. Like the very first thing I did, like the very first sort of job I did was for like, I think Adidas or something, where they approached me to shoot a pair of shoes, and I had no clue what to charge, and I literally just took the pair of shoes and shot it, and I did it for a pair of shoes.
You got to keep the shoes.
And then luckily I didn't have to give the shoes back.
Right.
But like, yeah, like, and then after a while you just realize like, hey, maybe I should charge. And then even if you do something for very little at the beginning, like you'll realize later on that, you know, you can try to charge, you just do a little bit more next time, a little bit more next time, and see how far you can push it, right? And then if a brand really wants to work with you, and you push your price too high, then they'll renegotiate. Like it's not like, you know what I mean? It's sort of it's a good negotiation process as well. And then you have to assess if it's worth that time, if they bring that price down or not.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I assess it when I'm trying to price my work,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
when I'm working with clients or whatnot.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think
But
that's
yeah.
good advice. Are you doing some more color grading now?
Yeah, so it's sort of like that Lightroom process where it's like a second round of color grading. So now the video is done and created, I add another adjustment layer above it, and then I do a color grading process. When you do the keyframing, you can't do these like hue saturation curves. So when I do my very last step, I add this hue saturation curve. So it's kind of like in Lightroom where you know how you have those like color sliders, but now it's like in curve format. So it's exactly the same thing, but it's just like in curve format. So I try to bring in like more of my sort of tones and colors. I bring back that blue, push it, like make it more a little bit teal, like the blue color. So it's like so that's sort of what I try to do in the very last step, because you can't do it during that keyframe step.
Right.
Yeah, so that's sort of what I'm doing at the moment. And then that's it. After that, you just export it out, and then again you do it on push it out to Instagram or your website or YouTube. Yeah.
Is there a file limit size for something like this? I imagine you could hit the cap on something like Instagram, or can you upload anything and it'll compress it, or is there anything we need to worry about?
No, so I've been testing it actually. So like if you upload like a full res time lapse, like from a camera, which is a Sony A7R4, which is like a 61 megapixel camera,
right,
it just won't upload properly on Instagram or Instagram stories. So I always downgrade it to like 1920 height. But like I think around 2000 pixels is usually fine. Like 2500 pixels is still fine. But I usually do 1920 because Instagram story is 1920 height anyways.
Yeah.
People's phone, so 1920. So that's why I usually just bring it down to 1920. And I did that at the very first step when I composed it at the beginning of this video.
Yeah, cool. There is a question, can you tell us some quick tips in freelance for beginners? There's probably a lot of tips that you could give. That's a pretty broad question. Do you want to have a
To be honest, I'm not even a freelancer myself. I'm still working in an architecture firm. But the last few weeks, because everything sort of slowed down in my architecture office, I've sort of been transitioning to freelance life. So that's why I've been like waking up a lot later and like being able to have more time to do all this stuff. So I think freelance life, you need to get yourself into a good routine. Like that first week, so I've been maybe, let's say freelance, like the word is freelance now. I've been freelance maybe about 4 weeks now. So the first week I was just like bludging so much. Like all I did was just like play games and watch movies, and like I haven't had this time off for so long.
Yeah.
That I just did nothing pretty much. I just relaxed. I felt a little bit guilty because I'm not doing any work. What am I doing? Like, what am I, just sitting around doing nothing? But then the second week, the third week, the fourth week, I was just like getting more and more productive. Like I started having a routine. Like even though I'm sleeping late and I'm waking up late, it's still a routine, right? And then, make sure I pump out, X amount of work every week to Instagram, make sure I'm pumping out X amount of work to YouTube, make sure I'm replying to all emails. Just that routine is also really good. But yeah, I think, I don't know, freelance life, you just you feel free, but at the same time, you should have a routine where you do some work and get creative.
Yeah, totally. And now's like quite a unique situation as well, I think.
Yeah.
It's not like a normal,
for sure.
It's not like a normal situation where you're working from home. You're just trying to, we're all in isolation. It's very, very different. I've been working from home for the last, working freelance, I suppose, or consultancy for the last sort of 6 or 7 years. And this is not, this is not normal. It's quite different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got.
I find it like.
Yeah, sorry, you go.
It's gonna be so strange when like we can go out again and like meet people again. Like Like usually, you know, like you shake hands with people, like high five with people. Now it's like, what do you do? Like,
What are we
it's just
doing?
gonna be
Yeah.
so strange when you
Just
go
do a
outside.
little wave when you get really close. Yeah, it's a strange world. Yeah, so that's amazing. So that's the final image. Maybe I'll bring it up just for those. Let me see if I can do this. Where was it again, Demas?
So there's that one. There's a diagonal one right there. Oh yeah, so that's the first one. Yeah.
So this is the first one that we did, that we went through. If you missed it, so that's the final. So using these 3 images, and also, sorry, you said the diagonal one was somewhere.
Yeah, just down next to the basketball court. So yeah, next to that colorful basketball court one. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that's how I did the diagonal one. So if you play that video, it becomes like a diagonal time slice.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, it just kind of gives like a cool effect to it. Like,
yeah,
you can see how like the lights on the crane just light up when it becomes night. Like, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really cool effect. And I wanted to make sure that we shout out for this as well, because this is something that everyone can participate in. So if you're watching this, get involved.
For sure.
Do you want to give us another like bit of a quick little plug and explanation of how it works?
So yeah, so a friend of mine in LA, Terry, and I, we put in like 70 photos of our raw files from our travels in the last like 1 or 2 years, for you guys to edit. And if you create something or you edit them, you can post them to Instagram under that hashtag Home FFA, and then you just follow those rules, like tag the sponsors and tag us in the caption and stuff like that. And then you can be in the running to win some cool prizes, which are listed there on the screen. The biggest one I think is like the $2,500 Adorama voucher, which is a camera store in America. And then you can win a Samsung phone or a DJI Mavic Mini drone as well, which is all very, very good tools.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super cool. And you've got
you can win Adobe subscription as well, 1 year full all apps. Thank you, Adobe, for that.
Thank you, Adobe. And there was also the premiere. So this is happening in 10 hours. So so people can head along over here. I think we have a link to share in chat, so you guys can check that out as well. So if you want Demas in the morning and Demas in the evening,
Demas all day, all night.
Demas all day. That's happening in 10 hours over here as well. So I'll be there. Come along. Let's check it out. Do you want to give us a quick little plug about what this is, actually, one more time, just in case people?
Yeah. So we created this video. Hopefully it turns into sort of a series, where, lots of locations and lots of spots in the world are sort of Insta famous now, where it's like so popular that like everyone just goes there to take that one shot where it's like, it's a classic shot that everyone wants to have. And so this spot here in Alabama Hills is like very classic, where it's just that straight road down where like, everyone just takes that one shot and that's it. And so we try to get a little bit creative and show people, how to try something different and do something different with your photography and, create something new that's unique to yourself. There's 4 of us, myself, Ben, TK North, and James Chan, Jam Tuner. And all 4 of us have like our own unique styles to photography. And so we all created something for this location.
Awesome. And that premieres tonight, so we can jump in there and check that out. And then, thank you so much. Thank you everyone in chat for the great questions. It's been great hanging out with all of you. It's been excellent. And thank you, Demas. Thanks for waking up with us earlier than you would
Thank
otherwise.
you for having me.
You can have breakfast now. So thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time. We're here tomorrow morning as well with Jeremy Lord with the Honor Heroes, and that's us for this week. So we will see you then. Goodbye, everyone.
See you guys. Thank you so much.